The blizzard had swallowed the streets of downtown Chicago so completely that even the neon glow from the Michigan Avenue storefronts blurred into pale streaks, like smeared paint on a frozen canvas. The storm hadn't been predicted to hit this hard, not tonight of all nights, but weather in the Midwest was unpredictable even in late February. The wind cut sideways, sharp as broken glass, drifting snow piling up along sidewalks, erasing footprints before the next step could land. And through this chaotic whiteout, Ethan Mercer's black SUV crawled forward with tires crunching over ice. Ethan wasn't supposed to be driving himself. His assistant, Hannah, had begged him to stay in the hotel suite after the charity gala ended early due to the worsening storm. But Ethan wasn't the type to sit still. Not when his mind was packed full of numbers, contracts, looming deadlines, and the quiet but constant pressure of leading Mercer Tech Industries, one of the biggest software companies in the country. He just wanted to get back to his penthouse overlooking Millennium Park, peel off the tuxedo jacket that felt like an iron cage, loosen his tie, and breathe like a normal human being. But the blizzard had other plans. The windshield wipers dragged back and forth with a helpless squeal, barely keeping visibility workable. Ethan leaned forward, squinting into the maze of swirling snow. The streetlights flickered. His phone buzzed twice, from Hannah, no doubt checking if he was alive, but he ignored it, keeping both hands on the wheel. That was when he saw her. A tiny shape, a small, unmoving silhouette, barely a fragment against the raging white. At first he thought it was just a heap of snow piled strangely. But as he drove closer, his headlights cut across a puffed pink coat, a small pair of boots, and a child-sized figure sitting on the curb near the corner of East Pearson Street, alone, motionless, head drooped forward as if the cold had pinned her to the ground. Ethan's foot slammed the brake before his brain even processed the full thought. He skidded to a stop halfway across the crosswalk, the SUV fishtailing slightly. The hazard lights blinked against the storm as he pushed open the driver's door, instantly assaulted by freezing air that clawed at his face. "Hey," he shouted over the wind, his voice half-swallowed. "Are you okay?" The figure didn't move. Snow whipped into his tuxedo jacket, instantly soaking into the thin fabric. He hurried toward the small shape, boots sinking deep in the accumulating drifts. As he crouched down, his breath stilled. It was a little girl, maybe 6, maybe 7. Her cheeks were red from the cold, tiny hands clasped tightly together. Her long dark hair was caught in frozen strands hanging past her knitted hat. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even trembling. She was simply there. Her eyes lifted toward him, wide, glassy, brown like polished chestnuts. She looked at him with a strange calmness that made the panic tighten inside his chest. "Sweetheart," he said, dropping his voice. "Where's your mom? What are you doing out here?" She blinked slowly, snowflakes clinging to her eyelashes. "Mom said you're the only one who can help us." Ethan froze. The blizzard seemed to stop around him for half a second, the world shrinking to the tiny girl staring up at him. "What?" he breathed. The child didn't answer. She only stared at him as if this moment, finding him in the middle of a city in a storm, had been expected, as if she had known exactly where he would be. "Let's get you inside first," he murmured, scooping her into his arms. She was cold, far too cold. Not shaking, which scared him more. She held onto him not out of fear, but gently,
trustingly,
as though she knew him. He hurried back to the SUV, shielding her from the wind with his shoulder. Inside, the heater blasted, though it felt useless against how chilled she was. He buckled her in carefully, hands moving fast but gentle. "What's your name?" he asked. She tilted her head, considering the question for a moment. "Lila." "Okay, Lila." He drove one-handed while pulling off his jacket and wrapping it around her. "Where's your mother? Is she close by? Did you get separated?" She looked down at her mittened hands. "She said to wait. She said you'd come." His gut tightened. "Does she know me?" Lila didn't respond. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. "Yeah." "Oh, thank God." Hannah exhaled. "I thought maybe you'd frozen to death out there." "Something's happened," Ethan said, eyes flicking toward the girl. "I found a child. Alone in the blizzard." What? I'm bringing her home. Call emergency services. Tell them where I live. And, Hannah? Yes. Make sure the building staff knows I'm bringing someone up. He hung up. Lila watched him with an unreadable expression. Are you a good person? She asked softly. The question hit him harder than the cold ever could. I try to be, he said. She nodded. Mom said you were. His knuckles tightened around the wheel. Something was very wrong. When he pulled into the underground garage beneath his building, the security guards were already waiting. They rushed toward the SUV with blankets. Ethan lifted Lila carefully, wrapping her up and sheltering her from the cold air that seeped through even the most insulated spaces. His penthouse was on the top floor, overlooking the snow-covered park, a place built with glass walls and quiet luxury. But as he carried Lila inside, it felt too big, too empty, too cold for a child who might have been sitting outside alone for God knows how long. He placed her on the large leather sofa in front of the fireplace and turned on the flames, watching the warmth begin to build. Do you need anything? He asked. Water? Something to eat? She shook her head lightly. Mom said not to ask for things. She said to wait until you heard everything. Ethan exhaled sharply through his nose and crouched beside her. Okay. Then tell me. What do you mean? She said. I'm the only one who can help. Help with what? Just as she parted her lips, a loud knock echoed from the penthouse door. That'll be the police, he muttered. But it wasn't. Standing at his door was a woman with short blonde hair, bundled in a thick winter coat dusted with snow. She introduced herself instantly, Detective Marissa Hale, Chicago PD. A firm handshake, sharp eyes, someone who'd seen too much and didn't bother hiding it. Mr. Mercer, we got a call about a child, she said, stepping into the warm penthouse. Mind if I speak with her? Ethan led her to the living room. Lila looked up at Marissa without fear. Hi, sweetheart, the detective said, kneeling. Can you tell me where your mom is? Lila hesitated, then reached into her coat pocket. She unfolded a small, crumpled piece of paper and handed it to Marissa. Ethan watched as the detective smoothed it open. Her expression changed instantly. She looked from the note to Lila, then slowly to Ethan. Mr. Mercer, she said carefully, do you know a woman named Emma Caldwell? Ethan felt something in his chest lock up. Emma. A name he hadn't heard in years. He swallowed. I knew her. A long time ago. Marissa nodded grimly and handed him the note. The handwriting was rushed, shaky. The ink smudged as if written in desperation. Ethan. Please. If anyone can help, it's you. Take care of Lila. Don't trust anyone who comes looking for her. I'm sorry, Emma. His vision tunneled. Emma. The woman he'd dated for 8 months, almost 10 years ago. The woman who vanished without a trace one night, leaving only unanswered messages and a shattered place in his memory. He searched for her. Hired private investigators. Nothing. She had disappeared like smoke. You said the child told you her mother said you could help, Marissa said quietly. Mr. Mercer, why would Emma leave her daughter with you? Ethan stared at Lila, breath frozen. My mom said you'd keep me safe, Lila whispered. Safe from what? From who? Detective, Ethan said slowly. I need you to tell me what's going on. Marissa exhaled. Emma Caldwell was reported missing 2 days ago. Neighbors heard shouting in her apartment. Then the place was found ransacked. No signs of her since. Ethan steadied himself on the edge of the couch. Lila hugged the blanket closer. The detective lowered her voice. And based on evidence found at the scene, we believe she was taken. Taken by who? Ethan demanded. Marissa hesitated. We're still investigating. Ethan could see she was hiding something. Something big. But before he could press her, Lila suddenly stiffened. Her small hand clutched the blanket. Her breaths grew sharp and fast, her eyes darting toward the large floor-to-ceiling windows as if she sensed something out there that they didn't. Lila. Ethan moved toward her. What is it? She didn't answer. The detective stood and approached the window, scanning the snow-blurred view of the street far below. Nothing seemed unusual, just white, wind, and the dim glow of distant traffic. But Lila's voice trembled when she finally whispered, "They followed me." Ethan felt his skin crawl. "Who followed you?" Lila's eyes filled with tears, not of fear, but certainty. "The men that took my mommy." A cold silence fell across the room. Detective Hale stepped closer. "How do you know they're here, sweetheart?" Lila pointed toward the window. "Because they always find us." Ethan's pulse hammered. Marissa moved quickly, turning away and speaking into her radio. "Unit 49, set perimeter at Mercer Tower. Possible threat, child witness. Move fast." Static crackled back, confirming. Ethan watched Lila curl deeper into the blanket. Something about her small form against the massive penthouse made him feel an ache he hadn't felt in years. A need to protect. A need he didn't understand. He knelt again. "Lila," he said softly, "did your mom tell you anything before she disappeared?" Lila nodded. "She told me if anything bad happened, I should find you." "But why me?" he whispered. She hesitated. "Because you're my dad." The world stopped. Ethan felt every breath leave his lungs. He stared at the girl. The brown eyes, the shape of her chin, the small dimples in her cheeks. Things he hadn't noticed until now. Until the words detonated like a bomb inside him. "I'm what?" His voice cracked. Lila nodded again, more slowly this time, as the truth settled over them like falling snow. "Mom said you never knew," she said in a tiny voice. "She said she had to keep me safe. But now she's gone. And she said, you're the only one who can keep me safe now." Ethan's vision blurred at the edges. Detective Hale's gaze snapped toward him. "Mr. Mercer, is that possible?" He stood too fast. She never told me. She never said, God. She vanished before anything." He braced a hand against the wall, stunned. Images from the past rose up. Emma smiling across a coffee shop table in Lincoln Park, Emma walking barefoot along Lake Michigan at midnight during the summer, Emma laughing as the wind tangled her hair. Then the memory of that final unanswered call. That last night when he thought she'd simply decided he wasn't enough. But she had been carrying his child. A life he never knew about. Lila, his daughter. The blizzard battered the windows as if urging him to move. To act. To breathe again. Detective Hale's radio buzzed sharply. "Unit 49 to Hale. Possible breach at lower garage. 2 unidentified vehicles forced entry through service gate. Armed subjects spotted." Ethan's stomach dropped. Marissa shoved her radio into her coat. "Mr. Mercer, we need to move. Now." Lila's small fingers grabbed Ethan's hand instinctively. He closed his own around hers, a fierce, protective grip that felt both foreign and inevitable. The detective darted across the penthouse, checking exits. But Ethan knew this building better than anyone. There's a service stairwell behind the kitchen. It connects to the emergency generator floor. No cameras down there. "Good," Marissa replied. "We'll use it." But the lights flickered overhead. Once. Twice. Then died. The entire penthouse plunged into darkness except for the faint glow of the city lights smeared through the storm. Lila whimpered. Ethan pulled her close, his heartbeat thundering. "It's okay. I've got you." The emergency lights sputtered on, dim red glows lining the hallway. Detective Hale swore under her breath. They cut the power. From far below, faint but unmistakable, came the echo of heavy footsteps. They weren't alone anymore. "Move," she whispered. Ethan lifted Lila into his arms and followed Marissa through the shadows, weaving through the dark hallway toward the concealed service door. The penthouse, normally a sanctuary of quiet luxury, now felt like a maze of cold marble and glass, echoing, vulnerable. Marissa pushed open the unmarked door, revealing the narrow metal stairwell spiraling downward. "Go. Fast." Ethan started down, Lila's arms looped tightly around his neck. Her breath was warm against his skin, trembling. He whispered into her hair, "I'm here. I'm right here." The stairwell echoed with their footsteps, Ethan's heavy and determined, Marissa's sharp and rapid, Lila's soft breaths in his ear. They reached the generator level, a concrete space humming with dull machinery. The air was warmer, filled with the low vibrations of backup power struggling to start. Marissa checked the hallway with her flashlight. Looks clear. But Lila shook her head urgently.
No.
They're close. Ethan didn't question it anymore. Her instincts had already proven terrifyingly accurate. A thud echoed above them. Voices.
Male.
Harsh.
Closing in.
This way, Ethan said, pointing to the maintenance tunnel leading toward the sub-basement. It comes out near the delivery docks. Marissa nodded, motioning for him to lead. They hurried into the narrow passage, their shadows stretching long on the metal walls. Lila held onto him silently now, eyes alert, listening for things they couldn't hear. Halfway through the tunnel, another boom shook the space, something slamming open in the generator room behind them. They're inside, Marissa hissed. Ethan ran faster, boots pounding. The tunnel spilled into the sub-basement, a dim storage area cluttered with crates. Emergency lights blinked like dying stars overhead. Marissa drew her gun. Stay behind me. But Lila's whisper cut through the darkness. Not that way. Ethan stopped instantly. Lila, why? She pointed toward the shadows on the far end of the room. They're there. A moment later, two silhouettes emerged, tall men with heavy coats and something metallic glinting in their hands. Marissa shoved Ethan toward the opposite exit.
Go.
He sprinted, clutching Lila. Behind him, gunfire exploded, deafening in the enclosed space. A bullet struck the wall inches from his head, sending sparks raining down. Marissa returned fire, her shouts echoing off concrete. Keep moving. Ethan burst through the door into the loading dock, gasping the freezing air. Snow blew in through the partially open garage door, drifting across the ground. A black SUV screeched around the corner outside. One of theirs or the attackers. He didn't know. Dad, Lila whispered, barely audible. It hit him again, the word.
Dad.
He'd known her less than an hour, and already he'd died before letting anything touch her. Another burst of gunfire ricocheted behind them. Marissa dashed out after them. We're boxed in, but Ethan spotted it, a narrow maintenance exit on the far left, half covered by crates. This way. They ran. But as Ethan reached for the door handle, a voice cut through the swirling snow. Hand over the girl, Mr. Mercer. Ethan froze. A man stepped into view, a tall, broad-shouldered figure in a dark tactical coat, face half shielded by the hood. His voice was smooth, controlled, almost calm against the chaos. You don't want to do this, the man continued. The girl comes with us. You walk away alive. Ethan shifted Lila in his arms, his grip tightening protectively. Marissa raised her weapon. Chicago PD. Drop your... A second man appeared behind her, disarming her with a swift, brutal strike. Ethan lunged forward, but the first man held up a gun pointed directly at him. Lila buried her face in his chest. Don't, Ethan breathed, eyes burning with fury. You have something that doesn't belong to you, the man said coldly. Hand her over. She's my daughter, Ethan growled. The man paused, his expression unreadable. Then he smiled. Exactly. Ethan's heart stopped. Snow blew between them like white ash. Marissa struggled against the man restraining her. Don't let them take her. They're not cops. They're... Her voice was cut off as she was slammed against the wall. Ethan stood there, breathing hard, mind racing, every instinct screaming to fight, and knowing he was unarmed. Lila lifted her head, tears streaking down her cheeks. Dad, don't let them. The world narrowed to her voice. To her. To the child he never knew existed until tonight, and now could not imagine losing. He stepped back slowly, shielding Lila with his body. I'm not giving her to you, he said, voice shaking with steel. You'll have to kill me first. The man gave a slow, almost admiring nod. So be it. He raised the gun. But a blinding flash of headlights burst through the loading dock entrance as a police SUV barreled inside, sirens screaming. Officers stormed out, shouting commands. Drop your weapons. Hands where we can see them. Gunfire erupted instantly as the attackers retreated, firing at officers before disappearing into the night through a side door. Marissa scrambled toward Ethan, grabbing his arm. Move. We need to get her safe. More officers flooded the dock, securing the area. Ethan held Lila close as she trembled uncontrollably, her tiny fingers clutching his shirt. Sirens echoed. Snow howled. The world spun. But in the middle of all of it, Ethan felt a clarity he hadn't felt in years. Lila was his daughter. Emma was missing. Danger was everywhere. And whatever was happening, it had only just begun. He tightened his hold on Lila, his voice breaking when he whispered into her hair. I've got you. I'm not letting anyone take you. Not now. Not ever. The blizzard raged outside as officers surrounded them, but Ethan barely felt the cold anymore. Because for the first time in his life, he had someone to protect, and he would burn the world down to keep her safe.